Freedom Island. I know I have my read New Testament because I found it with my Girl Scout stuff from when I was a teenager. I had to go hunt it up because when I started looking at this stuff, Uncle Boyce and Ted Edward Jones and all these conspirator people on the internet, there's a million crazy people on the internet, but this particular group of people, they're trying to make this holy war, and all the things they don't like, that Dream Immigration Act and gay people and women working outside the home and children that their parents are not the same race as each other, and I can't remember what else, education. There's a lot of things they don't like. People that think for themselves, although they think for themselves. It's very complicated. Is it okay to think for yourself? Not if you're me, but if it's them, then that's okay, right? So this particular group of people that they're all clumped together, connected through this work center in Detroit, where Uncle Boyce is. They've got this whole complicated theory. And like I said, it sounds crazy, so you wouldn't pay attention to it. You'd think, well, nobody would believe that, so you're not going to take it seriously, you're not going to pay attention to it. I think especially if you're a police officer, or it doesn't look as much like a cult as some of the, if people have believed that they got to wear a green and purple hat everywhere they go, or they have to walk around barefoot, or don't take their children to the doctor, or something like that, then I think the people that investigate would think, oh, now that's a real cult. That's crazy thinking. But sometimes they're going to look at these Bible verses and stuff, and it's going to just look like normal religious people, but it ain't. The Bible's full of crazy violence and inappropriate behavior of every kind, and cruelty and betrayal, and it's just a sad tale all the way around to humankind. But the parts, this group of people that I was looking at, what they've got online, that's behind their teachings and their beliefs, I knew enough to be worried about it. So I sat down this week and I took a legal pad and a Sharpie marker, and I started making me some notes, and then I got out my New Testament Mrs. Fisher gave me, and I got down on the floor and I pulled the bedspread up and looked under the bed, and there's a Sterilite box under there. It got real dusty. I felt bad. And I took it out and blew the dust off of it, and it's got in there my NA basic text and 12 steps and 12 traditions and handouts and so on. And in there was a King James Bible that my sponsor gave me when I started NA. And I kept it all hid because I'm going to make my family crazy if they thought I was doing Bible study. They're not going to understand that. But it has been something I've done a little bit of over time as I was doing NA, not because I really, to be honest, it's not like it really helps me personal that much. But if you want to make friends in OA or NA or AA, if you do Bible study around here, because that's where a lot of groups meet. They meet out of the church. And if you want to be friends with people and have them invite you to go to MCL with them and stuff like that, I don't do so much with that right now because of the COVID, but before, when we were going out to eat or do different things, if you want to be friends with people or go bowling or something like that, you don't have to sit around and talk about religious stuff all the time. But if they see you got a Bible, or they know you know a verse or something like that, then they consider you to be a friend and not an enemy, and they trust you, and then you're like on their team. Like, I'm not pretending to be super religious, but I did grow up going to Sunday school, and I know some of these stories and the verses and things like that because I grew up with it. So if I say that I know a verse, if that person wants to interpret it as this is the true meaning of my life and it makes them friendlier to me, then I don't think it's that deceptive to let them be happy, me be happy, and not get into a big conversation about, because really what's true is sometimes I don't know if I believe in God, and sometimes I don't, sometimes I do, and sometimes I kind of do. And that just, if you're not from around here, you don't understand. That's just not going to fly. It's the truth, but it's going to work out better for me to say things that I've got in common with other people. And if other people want to look at it as being two-faced, they'll just have to think that. Sometimes I worry that too about myself, but you have to get along in the world. I can't fight the whole world and everything about it and the way people are. I'm not going to fight all the churches, all the schools, all the white people that want to have a fight with all the people that aren't white and everything else. How am I going to fight all that by myself? I'm trying to get a job. I'm trying to stay out of trouble. And I got this whole secret spy mission I'm on. That's plenty. So I got out my Sharpie and I got out my notebook because as I was reading what some of these Uncle Boyce type conspirators, what they were saying, it was confusing me. And at first I thought it was just because I forgot parts of the Bible, which it's been a long time since I've been to Sunday school. So parts of it I forgot, and then other parts, they didn't have it quite right. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I've seen what their secret code entry plan was, giving everybody the same password to go to the secret website and all that, Not a bunch of brainiacs over there. Vicious, but not that smart, So I'm not surprised that they had some of it kind of turned around and mishmashed, and then some of it, what I was saying about Mom and her Bible mania and all that, is that stuff jumping around in your brain. Part of being crazy is sometimes people take things that don't make sense. They don't connect together. And it makes sense in their mind. I went to school with a girl, Charmaine, and Charmaine had something go on. She had that, what do you call it? They used to call it manic depressive, and now they call it something bipolar. She got that bipolar. So I went over to her house one time, and she said somebody was watching her. That somebody was like watching her house with a telescope or binoculars or something. I can't remember now. And I went over there, and she was explaining to me how the funny paper in the newspaper, and she was watching Quantum Leap on TV. Something that was in the regular part of the newspaper, like the sports or news, I can't remember which, but she was explaining to me how it all went together, and it had something to do with this secret people that was watching her with binoculars or telescope. And she seemed like her regular self mostly. I mean, she was kind of nervous, and she was smoking a lot. And she had, 4 or 5 cans of Coke on her counter, but no food in there. And I could see, I didn't know she had the bipolar yet. And I thought it was just not having food because she'd been smoking cigarettes, staying in the house by herself because she was mad about something that happened at work, and then smoking a bunch of cigarettes and drinking a bunch of sugary pop with caffeine in it. And I thought she's just poisoned herself. And I made her some toast. I went in the kitchen and made her some toast, and then I called her mom, and her mom come over and took her to the hospital. It turned out she just needed medication for it, for the bipolar, and they had something they could give her. It was like a mineral or something, and 3-4 days later I talked to her on the phone, and she was her regular self again. And she said she was on stress management now. But that day when I was over there, she kept trying to explain to me how Nancy and Sluggo and Quantum Leap and something about the sports pages, that the scores or how many hits in an inning or something, that it was like a code, and it reinforced everything, and it proved something about the people that was watching her. I was trying to be nice, but she kept saying, "Can't you understand? Can't you see? Can't you put it together?" And I said, "I see Nancy and Sluggo, and I see Quantum Leap, and I see the Buffalo, well, not the Buffalo Bills, that's football. I think it was baseball, but whatever it was. I see the baseball scores, but I'm going to be honest, I just can't, I'm not getting it." And she was like, she felt like I was pretending. I could tell she was thinking I was pretending I didn't understand. And she was starting to be worried that I was in secret plot with the telescope watchers. She would probably believe I could be a spy when she was like that, because to her I seemed like part of an international intrigue plot, I guess. But anyway, her mom came and got her, took her to the hospital. They got her medicine. She got better. She got on her stress management. That was good. So the problem is that I don't think stress management, or I don't even know if they could give some of these people that Uncle Boyce is hanging around with enough. Man, I don't know what it would take to fix their brain, but I don't think it's a few pills over 3 or 4 days like Charmaine took. So I made some notes down with a Sharpie marker on a legal pad because what I was trying to read about what they were saying about their holy war, their race war, and their culture war, and all this stuff, this holy battles and stuff, how it was all about the Bible. And it was confusing me, so I wrote it down. So I'm going to take my paper here, and I'm going to try to go through it just as my notes for myself. So when I go to Detroit, I got to get specific evidence. I got to get like proof. And I thought if I can kind of latch on to what they are thinking in their crazy thinking, specific things, then I can look for clues. You know, like maybe if they've got a weapon or something, they might name it something out of the Bible, like the book out of the Bible, or they might name it after a Bible general, or, you know, the name of some weapon they used to smite their enemy or something like that. It might be their clue, or secret numbers, you know, that the numbers would correspond to a chapter and verse in the Bible, and you would know it was a code or something like that. So this will sound kind of crazy mixed up, but I did the best I could to put it in order. I was looking at different people's posts and shared posts. They wasn't always dated correctly, or the playlist wasn't always in order, and there was some kind of mental jumping around and stuff like that. So I did my best to kind of do a, you know, murder mystery like Clue, you know, and put it back together again. All right, so where I picked up at with what they were going with their philosophy, these guys that are pretending that they are reforming to get out of prison and get real jobs, but really they're really trying to get together and get a army and arsenal, you know, like a mission plan, you know, for what they're doing, trying to look for scriptural basis, trying to get like a social media, you know, presence and all this stuff, and put it all together as like a manual and a plan and stuff like that. So where we kind of pick up with the ideology of these guys is we're not doing you know, creation or anything. We're, you know, Noah and stuff like that. We're past all that stuff. And now we're up to Isaac, which you remember he's the son of Abraham. And Abraham is the one who saw God's light on the so-called burning bush, which I don't think it was really on fire, but I think that he had like a revelation, right? That there wasn't a bunch of different gods, there was one God, right? So that was him. There's your insight right there. But a lot of times people can be real insightful or real knowledgeable or have a truth in one way, but they also got some kind of defective wiring or confusion in a different part of their brain, because Abraham got it set in his mind that God had told him to sacrifice his son to prove that God needed reassurance that Abraham was all in with his devotion, and that God was feeling insecure and he wanted some proof. That don't sound like God to me. That sounds like if you see in the paper that God told somebody to kill their children, they're crazy, right? So I don't know what happened with Abraham, but he thought God told him to kill his son. So he tied his son to the, you know, the sacrifice pile while they were out in the wilderness. And then I don't remember how it comes out, like, you know, God tells him that he doesn't have to do it after all. He's just right ready to do it. So, I mean, right there, you got to think Isaac's mind. You know, he probably inherited some of Abraham's way of thinking anyway. Maybe it was genetic, you know, I don't know. And then on top of that, you know, he had that PTSD. Your father ties you to a sacrificial thing and he's about to burn you up as a living sacrifice, or maybe he's going to kill, I think he's going to kill him first and then burn him up, but still. And then the ram was in the thicket with his horns caught, and that was a sign that God wanted him to sacrifice the ram instead. And, well, you know, I mean, Isaac lived, and he became a grown-up man, got married to Rebecca, had children of his own. And then, you know, as he was getting older, his eyesight started to fade away. But there was a lot going on in his head to start with. And then we get to the part of the story where Isaac is married to Rebekah and they've got Jacob and Esau. And that was the story I was talking about a little while ago with my mom and getting the right translation and stuff. Rebekah had a difficult pregnancy with her twins, and she felt like inside her womb that the twin boys were fighting and wrestling and struggling together, in her body, and she was worried there was something wrong. And she prayed, and God said that it was because the two of them were destined to struggle together, and that they were going to, when they were born, she was going to create basically the heredity line for two different nations, and that the older son would have to give in and have the younger son boss him, which was not their way with the birthright and all that stuff. So I know you know the story. So Rebekah liked Jacob better, and her husband, Isaac, he liked Esau better. And it was Esau got born first. He was the first twin to come out, so he was supposed to be the elder one and supposed to get the birthright. But they had to do a little ceremony with the father doing the blessing, because it was all new. You know what I mean? Abraham was the first one, and then Isaac was the second one after that of that generation of people that was having just one God and stuff. They were just getting it all worked out, right? So, it's a dim old tent, and Isaac couldn't see good anyway. And Rebekah told him that he was blessing Esau, but he was really blessing Jacob, who had the animal skin on him, because Esau was the hairy brother, and he touched him and felt these woolly skin, or probably the back of his neck, hair grew down the back of his neck and all that stuff, big beard probably, and hairy shoulders and back and stuff, and he thought that was Esau. So he gave Jacob the blessing. And then Esau wanted to kill Jacob, and Jacob had to run away and go live with a relative, and then there was various complexities after that. So there was already 2 or 3 things just in this part of the story with these conspiracy people. For one thing, it was super important to them that when I say he was an older man, he was older by Bible time, not by our time. So he was 40 when the kids got born. And so, a Jewish boy becomes a man when he's 13. So I don't know how old Jacob and Esau was. But then on the other hand, Esau was old enough to be hairy. So maybe he was 20 or something like that. And I know I don't quite have all my Bible facts, but he must have been a little bit older than 13. And it was real important to people in this online community that Isaac was 40 years old when he fathered the 2 boys that would become the 2 nations. They also made a huge deal out of rebellious Rebekah, who not only was the one who put an animal pelt on the wrong son to give him the favorite blessing, but also, if you remember back at Rebekah and the well, she disobeyed her father. She wasn't supposed to be out there, and she basically took a horse and saddled up and rode out to do what she wanted to do to, capture the husband that she wanted. And so you already got a daughter that didn't listen to her father, and now you got a woman who won't obey the rules that men have made, and she's tricking her husband. So the people who made this community was really into how Rebekah was disrespectful, and through the polarity in God's natural balance of the male-female roles and all that stuff apart. So you can kind of see where that was going right there. Oh Lord, I better quit. I just heard the car door slam, and I came in the house to do this instead of out on the side porch. I gotta close off real quick now. I don't want them to hear me.